The clock on Tiana's desk showed 6:15 p.m. when she finally packed up her legal briefs. Rain tapped against the office windows as she gathered her things, thinking about her son Tyler waiting at home. At 8 years old, he was old enough to spend an hour with Mrs. Rodriguez from next door, but Tiana never liked being late. "Heading out, Tiana?" her colleague Raj called from his office. "Yes," promised Tyler we'd make tacos tonight, she replied with a smile, slinging her bag over her shoulder. She checked her phone. No messages, which was good news. Mrs. Rodriguez always texted if anything came up. The drive home took longer than usual. Traffic crawled through downtown, windshield wipers fighting against the downpour. Tiana tapped, her fingers on the steering wheel, thoughts drifting to Victor, the man she'd been seeing secretly for the past 6 months. Their worlds couldn't have been more different. She, a hard-working attorney raising a son alone. He, a billionaire with shipping companies across 3 continents. Maybe someday, she whispered to herself, allowing a small smile. She hadn't introduced Victor to Tyler yet. Some things needed time. When Tiana finally pulled into her apartment complex parking lot, she noticed Mrs. Rodriguez standing under the building awning, looking worried. A chill ran through her that had nothing to do with the rain. "Mrs. Rodriguez, what's wrong?" Tiana called, rushing toward her, already knowing something was terribly off. "I've been trying to call you," the older woman said, her voice shaking. "Tyler isn't in your apartment. I went to check on him at 5:30 like you asked, but he wasn't there. The door was unlocked." Tiana's world tilted sideways. "What do you mean?" "He wasn't there. He gets off the school bus right outside. He has his key. He always goes straight home. I looked everywhere in the building. Some neighbors helped me. We called his name. Nothing." Tiana ran up the stairs 2 at a time, her heart hammering against her ribs. She burst into her apartment, calling Tyler's name, checking every room, every closet, under the beds, behind the shower curtain. Places she knew were too small for an 8-year-old boy, but searched anyway because panic doesn't follow logic. "Tyler!" Her voice echoed through the empty apartment. That's when she noticed it. A folded piece of paper on the kitchen counter. With trembling hands, she opened it. "He's safe on the water." 5 words. 5 simple words that turned her blood to ice. Tiana called the police immediately. 2 officers arrived within minutes, asking questions she could barely focus enough to answer. When was the last time she saw her son? Who had access to the apartment? Any custody disputes with the father? Any threats? Did Tyler have any friends he might visit without permission? No. His father isn't in the picture, Tiana explained, pacing the living room. And Tyler wouldn't just leave. He knows better. Someone took him. Look at this note. He's safe on the water. What does that even mean? While the officers radioed in the information and started organizing a search, Tiana made another call. Her fingers shook as she dialed Victor's number. "I need you," was all she said when he answered. The tremor in her voice must have told him everything he needed to know about the seriousness of the situation. "I'm on my way," Victor replied without hesitation. 20 minutes later, a black luxury car pulled up outside her building. Victor Blackwell stepped out, his tall frame and confident, stride-drawing looks even in this crisis. He wore no tie, his collar open, as if he'd rushed from some important meeting. When he entered the apartment, his eyes found Tiana immediately. Without caring what the officers might think, she fell into his arms, her composure finally breaking. "Tyler's gone," she whispered against his chest. Victor's body stiffened. Though he hadn't met the boy, he'd heard countless stories about him from Tiana. He knew how Tyler loved space and dinosaurs, how he was learning to play chess, how his laugh could brighten Tiana's worst days. "Tell me everything," Victor said quietly, guiding her to the couch while nodding respectfully to the police officers. Tiana showed him the note. Victor read it several times, his expression darkening. "On the water," he repeated. "I own shipping companies. Could this be connected to me somehow?" "To us?" One of the officers approached. "Ma'am, we need to check if anything else is missing or disturbed, and we'll need a recent photo of your son." Tiana nodded numbly, pulling out her phone to find a photo of Tyler. She showed them a picture from his last birthday, his gap-toothed smile wide as he blew out candles on a space-themed cake. While the officers continued their work, the building manager knocked on the door. "I heard what happened," he said, his face pale. "I checked our security cameras. There's something you should see." They gathered around the manager's tablet. The grainy footage showed the building's side entrance at 4:15 p.m. A boy, clearly, Tyler, appeared walking alongside a young man in his 20s. The man had his hand on Tyler's shoulder, guiding him toward the exit. Tyler didn't appear frightened. He was looking up at the man, seemingly engaged in conversation. "Do you recognize him?" the officer asked Tiana. She shook her head, but beside her, Victor had gone completely still. His face had drained of color. "I do," Victor said, his voice barely audible. "That's my son, Elijah." The revelation hung in the air like a thunderclap. Tiana turned to Victor, confusion mixing with the fear in her eyes. "Your son? I didn't know. You never mentioned." "We're estranged," Victor said, his eyes not leaving the tablet screen. "Have been for years. He resents me, blames me for his mother's death. But this," he gestured to the screen, "this makes no sense. How would he even know about you and Tyler?" The officer frowned. "Sir, if you believe your son is involved in this child's disappearance, we need to locate him immediately." Victor nodded, already pulling out his phone. "I'll find him. I have resources." He turned to Tiana, taking her hands in his. "I promise you we'll find Tyler. If Elijah has taken him, there's a reason. He's not a violent person. He's angry, troubled, but he wouldn't hurt a child." Tiana wanted to believe him, but the fear clawing at her chest made it hard to trust anything. Why would he take my son? What does safe on the water mean? Victor's expression hardened with determination. "I don't know yet, but I own half the private docks in this city, and I have people who can check every one of them within the hour. If they're on the water, we'll find them." As Victor made calls, directing his security team with the efficiency of someone used to command, Tiana stood by the window, staring out at the rain-slicked streets. Somewhere out there was her little boy, with a stranger who had his own reasons for taking him. The thought made her want to scream, to run into the night calling Tyler's name until her voice gave out. Instead, she closed her eyes and whispered a promise. "Hold on, baby. Mommy's coming to find you." Behind her, Victor's voice carried a sharp edge as he spoke into his phone. "Find Elijah, now." Victor's driver weaved through the late evening traffic with practiced precision. Rain pelted the windshield of the luxury sedan as they headed toward the exclusive high-rise where Elijah kept his penthouse apartment. Beside him, Tiana sat rigid, her eyes fixed on the city lights blurring past. "Tell me about him," she said quietly. "Your son." Victor's jaw tightened. "Elijah is 26. Brilliant but troubled. After his mother died when he was 12, I wasn't there for him the way I should have been. I buried myself in work instead of helping him grieve. And now? Now he lives off his trust fund, keeps to himself and makes it clear he wants nothing to do with me." Victor turned to her, his eyes clouded with regret. "But I never imagined he'd do something like this. It doesn't make sense." The car pulled up to a gleaming tower of glass and steel. A doorman rushed forward with an umbrella, but Victor waved him off, instead guiding Tiana quickly through the rain and into the lobby. "Mr. Blackwell," the concierge greeted him, looking surprised. "We weren't expecting you." "Is my son home?" Victor demanded. The young man behind the desk checked his computer. "Yes, sir. Would you like me to announce you?" "No," Victor said firmly. "We'll announce ourselves." They took the private elevator to the top floor. Victor used his key, one he'd never had occasion to use before, and they entered a sprawling penthouse with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the stormy city skyline. "Elijah?" Victor called out. Music was playing somewhere in the apartment. Modern, with a heavy beat. They followed the sound through a minimalist living room decorated with expensive art that looked chosen by a designer rather than loved by its owner. They found Elijah in his study, feet up on a desk, scrolling through. His phone? He looked up, not seeming surprised to see his father, but his eyebrows raised at the sight of Tiana. "Well?" he said, setting down his phone. "The mysterious girlfriend finally makes an appearance?" Tiana stepped forward. "Where is my son?" Elijah tilted his head, studying her. "Cutting right to the chase, I can see why Dad likes you." Victor moved to stand beside Tiana. "This isn't a game, Elijah. You were seen on security footage leaving an apartment building with her 8-year-old son." "Was I?" Elijah stood, moving, to a bar cart where he poured himself a drink with deliberate slowness. He was tall like his father, but leaner, with a sharpness to his features that spoke of both intelligence and discontent. "Don't play dumb," Victor snapped. "The police are involved. This is kidnapping." "Kidnapping?" Elijah laughed, though the sound held no humor. "That's a bit dramatic, don't you think? The kid came with me willingly. I told him I was a friend of his mom's, that I had a cool boat to show him." Tiana's hands curled into fists. "Where is he? Where's Tyler?" "Safe," Elijah said, taking a sip of his drink. "Just like the note said." Victor crossed the room in 3 strides, knocking the glass from his son's hand. It shattered against the hardwood floor. "Enough. Tell us where he is now." Something flashed in Elijah's eyes, fear perhaps, or simply surprise at his father's outburst. He stepped back. "He's with Lawrence," he said finally. Victor went very still. "Lawrence? My CFO?" Elijah nodded. "It was his idea, actually. He said we needed to find out if she was just after your money." He gestured toward Tiana. "He said we should test her, see what she'd do if she thought her kid was in danger." "You're lying," Victor said, but uncertainty had crept into his voice. Tiana's phone buzzed in her pocket. She pulled it out with trembling hands to find a video call from an unknown number. When she answered, the screen showed her son's face. "Tyler," she cried out. The boy looked scared but unharmed. He was sitting in what appeared to be the cabin of a boat, the wooden paneling visible behind him. Mom, I want to come home." "Baby, are you okay? Where are you?" A hand reached in and took the phone from Tyler. The camera shifted to show an older man with silver hair and a neat beard, dressed in a blazer despite the casual setting. "Hello, Tiana," the man said smoothly. "I'm Lawrence, Victor's business partner." "What do you want?" she demanded, her voice breaking into a scream that made everyone in the room flinch. "Give me back my son." The call abruptly ended. Victor looked shell-shocked. "Lawrence has been with me for 15 years. He's like family." "Well," Elijah said, "he seems to think you're replacing your actual family with a new one." He walked to the window looking out at the rain-lashed city. "He came to me 2 months ago, said he was worried about you, that this woman," he nodded toward Tiana, "was just using you, that she'd convinced you to change your will." "That's ridiculous," Victor said. "I haven't changed my will." "No?" Elijah turned. Lawrence showed me papers. "Your signature." "Forged then," Victor said firmly. "I haven't made any changes." Tiana, still staring at her phone, finally found her voice. "I don't care about any of this. I just want my son back. Where is this boat?" Elijah hesitated, then pulled out his own phone, bringing up a map. "It's my boat, actually. Lawrence said we could use it to talk to the kid, figure out what his mom had told him about Victor, see if she was poisoning him against me." He showed them the screen. "It's docked here, at Pine Harbor Marina." Victor checked his watch. "It's a 40-minute drive." "The boat isn't there anyway," Elijah said. "Lawrence took it out earlier. Said he wanted to show the kid the night skyline from the water." Tiana grabbed Elijah's arm. "Call him, tell him to bring Tyler back now." Elijah tried putting the phone on speaker. It rang and rang, eventually going to voicemail. "He's not answering," Elijah said, looking worried for the first time. Victor was already on his phone. "Sam, I need the helicopter ready in 5 minutes and call Harbor Patrol. I need every available boat looking for my personal vessel, the Blackwell Legacy." He turned to his son. "You're coming with us." Elijah nodded, suddenly looking much younger, almost afraid. "Dad, I swear I didn't think—" Lawrence said it was just to talk to the kid, to protect the family. "We'll discuss your poor judgment later," Victor said coldly. "Right now, we need to find them." They took the elevator down and rushed through the lobby. Victor's driver had the car waiting, and they sped toward the private helipad Victor kept for business trips. In the back seat, Tiana clutched her phone, willing it to ring again, to show her Tyler's face. Her mind raced with terrible possibilities. Why would Victor's business partner take her son? What did he hope to gain? "My team is tracking the boat's GPS," Victor told her, his hand covering hers. "We'll find them." "Why would Lawrence do this?" she asked. "What does he gain?" Victor shook his head. "I don't know. It makes no sense. Lawrence has been by my side through everything. He helped build the company from nothing. He's wealthy in his own right." "Maybe it's not about money," Elijah said quietly from the front passenger seat. "Maybe it's about control." Victor glanced at his son. "What do you mean?" "Lawrence talks about you like you're his project," Elijah explained. "Like every success you've had is because of him. When he heard about her," he nodded toward Tiana, "he was furious. Said you weren't thinking clearly, that you needed protection from yourself." They arrived at the helipad, where a sleek, black helicopter waited, its rotors already spinning. As they rushed toward it, bent against the rain, Tiana's phone buzzed again. Another video call. This time, when she answered, it wasn't Tyler on the screen, but Lawrence, his silver hair gleaming, in the boat cabin's dim light. "I see you've all gotten together," he said, his voice eerily calm. "How nice. A family reunion of sorts." "Where's my son?" Tiana demanded. "He's resting," Lawrence replied. "Don't worry, I've given him some hot chocolate. He's quite comfortable." Victor leaned into the frame. "Lawrence, what the hell are you doing? Bring the boy back now and maybe we can fix this." Lawrence laughed. "Fix this? Oh, Victor. Always thinking you can solve every problem by throwing money at it." His expression hardened. "But some things can't be fixed with money. Some betrayals cut too deep." "What betrayal?" Victor asked. "I've done nothing but trust you." "And yet you've been meeting with Kensington Group behind my back," Lawrence said, his pleasant mask slipping to reveal anger beneath. "Planning to sell your controlling interest without consulting me." Victor looked genuinely confused. "What are you talking about? I had one exploratory meeting with them months ago. Nothing came of it." "Don't lie to me," Lawrence snapped. "I've seen the paperwork. The deal is practically done." "There is no deal," Victor insisted. "Lawrence, you're not making sense. Whatever you think is happening, it's not. Now tell us where you are so we can talk in person." Lawrence seemed to regain his composure. "Oh, we'll talk, but on my terms." He angled the phone to briefly show Tyler sleeping on a cushioned bench. "The boy is my insurance that you'll listen. Come alone, Victor. Just you. I'm sending coordinates," to Elijah's phone. The call ended. Elijah's phone pinged with a message. He showed the screen to Victor, a set of GPS coordinates. "It's about 20 miles offshore," Victor said. "In international waters." Tiana felt a cold dread wash over her. Why would he take Tyler into international waters? No one answered, but the grim look that passed between father and son told her they were all thinking the same thing. Whatever Lawrence was planning, he wanted to be beyond the reach of local authorities. They boarded the helicopter, the pilot, already briefed on their destination. As they lifted off into the stormy night, Tiana pressed her forehead against the cold window, eyes searching the darkness below. "Hold on, Tyler," she whispered. "We're coming." The helicopter cut through the night sky, its searchlight slicing through darkness and rain. Inside, Tiana gripped the edge of her seat, her knuckles white. The pilot's voice crackled through their headsets. "We're approaching the coordinates, sir. I can see a vessel about half a mile ahead." Victor leaned forward, peering through the windshield. "That's it, the Blackwell Legacy." Below them, a sleek yacht glowed against the black water. At 70 feet, it was modest by billionaire standards, but impressive nonetheless, with its polished white hull and elegant lines. "What's the plan?" Elijah asked, his earlier cockiness replaced by genuine concern. Lawrence said to come alone. Victor unbuckled his safety harness. "I'll go down first on the winch. The two of you wait until I signal it's safe." Tiana shook, her head fiercely. "No, that's my son down there. I'm going." "Tiana, please. Lawrence is unpredictable right now. Let me handle this." "I don't care how unpredictable he is," she said, her voice steel beneath the tremor. "Tyler needs to see me. He'll be scared." They locked eyes, a silent battle of wills. Finally, Victor nodded. "We'll go together." The pilot maneuvered the helicopter into position above the yacht's rear deck. The wind from the rotors whipped the water into frothy peaks around the boat. A figure emerged on deck. Lawrence, his silver hair wild in the wind, his face turned up toward them. Victor spoke into his headset. "Take us lower, right over the stern." As they descended, Victor helped Tiana into a harness attached to the helicopter's winch system. "Remember," he shouted over the roar of the rotors, "let me do the talking. Lawrence respects power. If we appear divided, he'll exploit it." Tiana nodded, though in her heart, all she cared about was getting to Tyler. They began their descent, the winch lowering them slowly toward the yacht's deck. Rain pelted them cold and sharp as needles. When their feet touched the polished teak, Victor quickly unfastened their harnesses, and the cable retracted upward. Lawrence stood watching them, unnervingly calm despite the chaos of the helicopter hovering above. He wore a blazer over a crisp white shirt as if dressed for a business meeting rather than a kidnapping. "Victor," he called, his voice carrying over the noise. "I said come alone." Victor stepped forward, positioning himself slightly in front of Tiana. "You involved her son. She deserves to be here." Lawrence's gaze shifted to Tiana, his expression unreadable. "Mrs. Taylor, I apologize for the inconvenience. This matter could have been resolved without involving your boy, had Victor been reasonable." "Where is he?" Tiana demanded. "Where's Tyler?" "Below deck, sleeping. I gave him something to help him rest." "You drugged an 8-year-old child?" Her voice rose to a scream that cut through the night. "Tyler! Tyler, can you hear me?" Lawrence's calm facade cracked slightly. "Please control yourself, Mrs. Taylor. Your son is perfectly fine." Victor placed a steadying hand on Tiana's shoulder before addressing Lawrence. "Let's go inside and talk. The three of us." Lawrence seemed to consider this, then nodded. "Very well. Follow me." He led them to a door that opened into the yacht's main cabin, a luxurious space with leather seating and polished wood paneling. The helicopter's noise faded as the door closed behind them. "Where's Tyler?" Tiana asked again, scanning the room. "In the guest cabin," Lawrence said, moving to a small bar where he poured himself a drink. "As I said, he's sleeping. Best not to disturb him until we've settled our business." Victor stepped forward. "What business, Lawrence? What's this really about?" Lawrence took a slow sip of his drink, studying Victor over the rim of his glass. 20 years we've been together, building this empire. 20 years of my guidance, my connections, my strategic mind. And how do you repay me? By selling your shares to Kensington behind my back. I'm not selling to Kensington or anyone else," Victor said firmly. "I had one exploratory meeting with them months ago. Nothing more." "Then explain these," Lawrence said, retrieving a folder from a desk drawer. He withdrew several documents, spreading them on the table. "Transfer agreements, all ready for your signature. The deal is practically done." Victor picked up the papers, scanning them quickly. "These are forgeries. Good ones, but forgeries nonetheless. I never authorized this." Lawrence's expression darkened. "More lies." "No lies, Lawrence. Someone's manipulating you." "Or someone's manipulating you," Lawrence countered, his gaze sliding to Tiana. "She appears in your life 6 months ago, and suddenly you're making secret deals, changing your patterns." "Leave her out of this," Victor said sharply. "This is between you and me." On the far side of the cabin, a door creaked open. All three, Adults turned to see a small figure standing there, rubbing his eyes sleepily. "Mom?" Tyler called, his voice small and confused. Tiana rushed to him, dropping to her knees and pulling him into a fierce embrace. "Baby, are you okay? Did they hurt you?" Tyler shook his head against her shoulder. "The old man gave me hot chocolate. It tasted funny. Then I got really sleepy." Tiana shot a venomous look at Lawrence. "You drugged my son." Lawrence waved a dismissive hand. "A mild sedative only, for his comfort. Children get so anxious in unfamiliar situations." Victor took a step toward Lawrence, his hands clenching into fists. "You've crossed every line, kidnapping a child, drugging him. This ends now." Above them, the sound of the helicopter changed, growing fainter. Victor glanced upward. "What's happening?" Lawrence smiled thinly. "I told your pilot to back off. Give us some privacy. Don't worry, he's still within radio range." "And Elijah?" Victor asked. "Still in the helicopter, I presume." Such a disappointing young man, so easily manipulated. "I barely had to nudge him. Toward his resentment of you, it was already there, festering." Victor's expression hardened. "So you used my son to get to Tiana's. Poetic, isn't it?" Lawrence took another sip of his drink. "But necessary. I needed leverage to ensure you would listen." "I'm listening," Victor said coldly. "Get to the point." Lawrence set down his glass. "Simple. You will sign over 51% of your company, to me. Not to Kensington, not to some faceless corporation, but to me. The man who helped you build it all." Victor stared at him. "You can't be serious." "Oh, but I am. Dead serious." Lawrence's pleasant mask had completely fallen away now, revealing something cold and calculating beneath. "You've become a liability, Victor. Your judgment is compromised. This domestic entanglement," he gestured toward Tiana and Tyler, "is just the latest example. The company needs steady leadership, my leadership." "You're insane," Victor said quietly. "Even if I signed anything under these circumstances, it would never hold up legally." Lawrence smiled. "Perhaps not in an American court, but we're in international waters, and I have connections in countries where such agreements would be honored without question. Sign the papers, Victor, or this night will end very badly for all of us." The subtle threat hung in the air. Tiana pulled Tyler closer to her, backing toward the cabin door. "You won't get away with this," she said. "The police know about the kidnapping. They're probably tracking this boat right now." Lawrence laughed. "The police? Out here? I think not. And this vessel's GPS transponder has been modified. As far as the authorities are concerned, we simply don't exist out here." Victor moved carefully, positioning himself between Lawrence and Tiana. "Let them go," he said. "This is between you and me. The boy and his mother have nothing to do with it." "On the contrary," Lawrence replied. "They have everything to do with it. They're the reason we're here. Your weakness, Victor. Your sentimentality." He reached inside his blazer and withdrew, a handgun. "Now, shall we proceed with the paperwork?" Tiana gasped, instinctively turning to shield Tyler with her body. Victor went very still. "Put the gun down, Lawrence," he said, his voice measured and calm despite the situation. "You're not a killer." "No?" Lawrence raised an eyebrow. "You'd be surprised what a man will do when his life's work is threatened. 20 years, Victor. 20 years of being the power behind the throne, never receiving the recognition I deserve." "You've been compensated beyond most people's wildest dreams," Victor countered. "You're wealthy in your own right." "It's not about money," Lawrence snapped, the gun wavering slightly in his hand. "It's about legacy, about control, about respect." Outside, the sound of the helicopter grew louder again. Lawrence glanced up, momentarily distracted. In that instant, Victor lunged forward. Grabbing for the gun, the two men grappled, their struggle sending them crashing into the bar. Glasses shattered. The gun went off with a deafening bang, the bullet splintering the wooden paneling above their heads. "Run!" Victor shouted to Tiana. Get Tyler out of here! Tiana didn't hesitate. She scooped up her son and bolted for the cabin door, out onto the rain-soaked deck. Behind her, she could hear the sounds of the struggle continuing. Another gunshot. The thud of bodies hitting the floor. On deck, the helicopter hovered lower now, its searchlight illuminating the yacht. Tiana could see Elijah in the open door, gesturing frantically for her to move toward the stern. "Come on, baby," she urged Tyler, guiding him across the slippery deck. "We're going to climb up to the helicopter." "But what about that man?" Tyler asked, his eyes wide with fear. "He has a gun." "Victor will handle him," Tiana said, praying she was right. "We need to get you safe." They reached the stern just as a winch cable descended from the helicopter. Attached to it was a rescue harness. Elijah shouted something from above, but his words were lost in the roar of the rotors and the howling wind. Tiana quickly fitted the harness around Tyler, securing the buckles with trembling fingers. "Hold on tight," she told him. "Don't let go no matter what." She gave a thumbs up to Elijah and the cable began to retract, lifting Tyler slowly toward the hovering helicopter. Tiana watched, her heart in her throat, as her son dangled above the churning sea. Behind her, the cabin door burst open. Victor stumbled out, blood streaming from a cut on his forehead. "Tiana," he shouted, "get down." She dropped to the deck, just as Lawrence emerged, the gun still in his hand. He raised it, aiming not at them but at the helicopter above. "No!" Victor tackled him again, sending them both crashing against the railing. The gun went off again, the sound almost lost in a sudden clap of thunder. For a horrible moment, Tiana thought Lawrence had shot the helicopter, but it continued to hover, the winch still pulling Tyler upward. Victor and Lawrence struggled at the railing, each fighting for control of the gun. Rain and sea spray drenched them, making the deck treacherously slick. In the helicopter's harsh searchlight, their shadows danced across the white deck like grotesque puppets. Tiana looked up. Tyler had almost reached the helicopter. Elijah was leaning out, ready to pull him in. Just a few more seconds. A cry drew her attention back to the struggling men. They had fallen to the deck, rolling dangerously close to the edge. The gun clattered away, sliding across the wet surface toward her. Without thinking, Tiana lunged for it, her fingers closing around the cold metal. She stood, pointing it at Lawrence with shaking hands. "Enough," she screamed over the storm. "It's over." Lawrence looked up at her, his silver hair plastered to his face, his eyes wild. For the first time, Tiana saw the man beneath the polished exterior, desperate, unhinged. "You think this changes anything?" he snarled. "You think he'll choose you over everything we've built?" Victor struggled to his feet, his breathing heavy. "She's right, Lawrence, it's over. The Coast Guard is on its way. Give it up." Lawrence laughed, a horrible, broken sound. "Always so confident, Victor. Always thinking you're one step ahead." He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small device with a single button. But not this time. "What is that?" Victor asked, suddenly wary. "Insurance," Lawrence replied. "If I can't have the company, no one will. Least of all you." His thumb hovered over the button. "This boat is rigged to blow. One press, and we all go down together. One happy family, sunk to the bottom of the ocean." Tiana felt her blood run cold. She looked up at the helicopter, relieved to see that Tyler was safely inside now. Elijah had pulled him in and was securing him. "You're bluffing," Victor said, though uncertainty had crept into his voice. "Am I?" Lawrence's finger inched closer to the button. "Care to bet your life on it? Her life?" The helicopter began to move away, gaining altitude. Good, Tiana thought. Tyler was safe. Whatever happened now, her son would survive. "Put it down, Lawrence," Victor said, taking a cautious step forward. "You don't want to die out here, don't I?" Lawrence looked strangely calm now. "Perhaps it's fitting. To go down with the ship, like captains of old." He turned to Tiana, his eyes boring into hers. "He'll disappoint you too, you know. In the end, it's what he does." Tiana kept the gun steady, aimed at Lawrence's chest. "Put the device down. Now." For a long moment, no one moved. The only sounds were the rain hitting the deck, the distant rumble of thunder, and the fading whir of the helicopter, rotors as it moved farther away with Tyler safe inside. Then from somewhere in the distance came a new sound, the distinctive wail of sirens. Coast Guard vessels approaching. Lawrence's face contorted with rage. No, they can't be here yet. He raised the device, his thumb pressing down on the button. Victor lunged forward one last time, knocking Lawrence's arm upward. The device flew from his hand, arcing through the air before disappearing into the churning sea below. No! Lawrence screamed, diving for the railing as if he might somehow retrieve it. Victor grabbed him, wrestling him back from the edge. It's over, Lawrence. But Lawrence fought with the strength of a man possessed, twisting in Victor's grip until he broke free. He staggered backward, his feet slipping on the wet deck. Time seemed to slow as Lawrence lost his balance. His arms windmilled frantically, reaching for something, anything to hold on to, but there was nothing there. He fell, a look of genuine surprise on his face as he plummeted over the side of the yacht and into the dark waters below. Lawrence! Victor rushed to the railing, searching the waves, but there was no sign of the man who had been his partner for 20 years, just the endless black sea, swallowing everything in its depths. Tiana lowered the gun, her whole body shaking with adrenaline and relief. In the distance, the lights of Coast Guard vessels grew brighter, drawing closer. Victor turned to her, his face a mask of exhaustion and regret. Are you okay? She nodded, unable to find words. Her son was safe. That was all that mattered. Victor wrapped his arms around her, and she leaned into his embrace, both of them standing silent in the rain as they waited for rescue. The Coast Guard cutter cut through the choppy waters, its light slicing through the darkness. Inside the cabin, Tiana sat with a blanket wrapped around her shoulders, Tyler curled against her side, finally sleeping peacefully. Across from them, Victor spoke in low tones with a Coast Guard officer, explaining the night's events. We've got divers searching the area, the officer said, but in these conditions finding your business partner will be difficult. Victor nodded, his face grave. I understand, but please keep looking. Despite everything, Lawrence deserves to be found. The officer stepped away to radio an update to his team, leaving Victor alone with Tiana and Tyler. He moved to sit beside them, careful not to wake the sleeping boy. How is he? Victor asked softly. Tiana brushed a strand of hair from Tyler's forehead. Exhausted, confused, but physically he seems okay. The doctor on board says the sedative Lawrence gave him was mild. No lasting effects. And you? Victor's eyes searched her face. I don't know yet, she admitted. It doesn't feel real. Victor took her hand, his thumb tracing gentle circles on her palm. I'm so sorry, Tiana. I never imagined Lawrence would do something like this. I never thought my life would touch yours this way. Before she could respond, the cabin door opened and Elijah entered, accompanied by another Coast Guard officer. He had been in a separate room, giving his own statement about the events that had led to this night. Dad, he said, his voice small, almost childlike. Can I talk to you? Victor squeezed Tiana's hand before standing. Of course. Father and son moved to a corner of the cabin, speaking in hushed tones. Tiana couldn't hear what they were saying, but she could see the remorse in Elijah's posture, the forgiveness in Victor's, as he eventually pulled his son into an embrace. The Coast Guard officer who had been talking to Victor earlier returned. Ma'am, we'll be docking in about 20 minutes. There are police officers waiting to take your statements, but they understand if you need medical attention first. Tiana nodded her thanks. As the officer moved away, Victor and Elijah approached, both looking drained but somehow lighter, as if a burden had been partially lifted. Tiana, Victor said, this is my son Elijah. Properly this time. Elijah stepped forward, his eyes unable to meet hers. I'm sorry, he said. What I did, helping Lawrence take your son, it's unforgivable. I didn't know what he was really planning, but that's no excuse. Tiana looked at him for a long moment. He was so young, really, caught between childhood resentment and adult responsibility. Why did you help him? Elijah's gaze dropped to Tyler, sleeping peacefully against his mother. Lawrence came to me with proof that you were manipulating my father. Fake documents showing that Dad was changing his will, cutting me out. He said he needed my help to show Dad who you really were. Elijah ran a hand through his damp hair. I was angry. I've been angry at Dad for so long that it was easy to believe the worst.
How did Lawrence know about us? Tiana asked Victor. We were so careful. Victor's expression darkened. He had me followed. My head of security found surveillance equipment in my homes, my car, even my office. Lawrence has been watching me for months, maybe longer.
But why? Tiana shook her head, trying to make sense of it all. He was already wealthy, already powerful. It wasn't about money, Victor said. It was about control, about legacy. Lawrence always saw himself as the true genius behind our success. In his mind, I was just the face, the name. And then you started seeing me, Tiana said slowly, understanding dawning. Someone he couldn't control. Victor nodded. Someone who made me question my priorities, my lifestyle. Lawrence must have seen you as a threat to his influence. The Coast Guard cutter's engines changed pitch as they approached the harbor. Through the cabin windows, Tiana could see the lights of the city drawing nearer, a constellation of safety and normality that had seemed so distant just hours ago. There's something else, Elijah said, his voice tight with fresh anxiety. Something I didn't tell the Coast Guard yet. Victor turned to his son. What is it? The device Lawrence had, the one he claimed would blow up the boat. Elijah swallowed hard. It was real. I helped him install what he told me were security measures on the yacht last week. He said it was to protect against pirates or hijackers. I didn't know. I swear I didn't know what they really were. Victor's face drained of color. You're saying the boat was actually rigged with explosives? Elijah nodded miserably. Lawrence showed me the plans. He said it was a deterrent, that they would never actually be used. I believed him. Jesus, Victor whispered. He looked at Tiana and Tyler with new horror, realizing how close they had all come to death. I'll need to tell them, Elijah said, nodding toward the Coast Guard officers. They'll need to secure the yacht, make sure everything's disabled. Yes, Victor agreed. But Elijah, this wasn't your fault. Lawrence manipulated you just like he tried to manipulate me. The young man shook his head. I should have known better. I should have come to you first. We both made mistakes, Victor said quietly. The important thing is that we learn from them. The boat docked with a gentle bump. Outside, Tiana could see police cars, their red and blue lights pulsing in the night. A medical team waited nearby with stretchers. She gently shook Tyler awake. We're back on land, sweetie. We need to go with some doctors to make sure you're okay. The boy blinked up at her sleepily. Is the bad man gone? Tiana exchanged a glance with Victor. Yes, honey. He can't hurt us anymore. They disembarked, Tyler clinging to Tiana's hand. The paramedics immediately approached, guiding them toward an ambulance. Victor and Elijah were led to separate police cars for preliminary statements. Wait, Tyler said suddenly, pulling back. He looked at Victor. Are you coming with us? Victor knelt down to the boy's level. I need to talk to the police first, Tyler, but I'll come see you at the hospital as soon as I can. If that's okay with your mom. Tyler looked up at Tiana questioningly. After a moment, she nodded. We'd like that. At the hospital, doctors checked Tyler thoroughly, finding no lasting effects from the sedative Lawrence had given him. Tiana refused to leave his side even when the police came to take her statement. She told them everything from the moment she'd discovered Tyler was missing to the final confrontation on the yacht. And you say Mr. Richardson fell overboard? The detective asked, his pen poised over his notepad. Yes, Tiana confirmed. He lost his balance. Victor tried to save him, but... The detective nodded. We have divers still searching, but in those conditions... He left the implication hanging. It was nearly dawn when Victor arrived at the hospital, looking exhausted but relieved to find Tyler sitting up in bed, eating Jell-O and watching cartoons. Hey, buddy, Victor said from the doorway. How are you feeling? Okay, Tyler replied around a mouthful of red jello. The doctor said I can go home today. Victor smiled, then turned to Tiana. Can we talk? Just for a minute? She followed him into the hallway, suddenly aware of her rumpled clothes, her tangled hair. Victor looked no better, his expensive suit stained with seawater, a bandage covering the cut on his forehead. The police have finished with the yacht, he told her. Elijah was right. There were explosives on board, professionally installed. If Lawrence had detonated them... He couldn't finish the sentence. Tiana leaned against the wall, her legs suddenly weak. Why would he go that far? What could possibly be worth all this? The company is worth billions, Victor said. But it was more than that. Lawrence left a letter in his apartment. The police found it during their search. He rubbed his eyes tiredly. He was dying. Pancreatic cancer, terminal. He had maybe 6 months left. My God, Tiana whispered. He wanted to secure his legacy. Make sure the company would be run his way after he was gone. When he found out about you and Tyler, he saw a threat to his plans. Victor's voice broke slightly. He was my friend for 20 years, and I never saw what was happening to him. Tiana reached out, touching his arm gently. You couldn't have known. Maybe not, Victor conceded. But I should have paid more attention. To him, to Elijah, I've spent so many years focused on building my empire that I missed what was happening right in front of me. A nurse appeared in the doorway of Tyler's room. Mrs. Taylor, the doctor, would like to see you before discharging your son. Tiana nodded, but hesitated before following the nurse. Victor, about us. We don't have to decide anything now, he said quickly. You and Tyler have been through enough. Take some time. I'll be here when you're ready to talk. The discharge process took another hour. As Tiana helped Tyler gather his things, a soft knock came at the door. Elijah stood there looking uncertain. A stuffed dinosaur clutched awkwardly in his hands. Hi, he said hesitantly. Dad told me Tyler likes dinosaurs. Tyler's eyes widened at the sight of the plush, Tyrannosaurus Rex. Cool! Elijah stepped into the room, handing the toy to Tyler. It's not much, but I wanted to say sorry for what happened. Tyler studied the older boy curiously. Are you the one who told me about the boat? Elijah nodded, shame evident in his expression. Yes, I lied to you, and that was wrong. Tyler considered this, his young face serious. My mom says when you do something wrong, you have to try to make it right. She's a smart lady, Elijah said, glancing at Tiana. I'm trying to make it right. I'm going to help the police make sure nothing like this ever happens again. Tyler seemed satisfied with this. He tucked the dinosaur under his arm. Thanks for the T-Rex. As they prepared to leave, Victor appeared with a social worker who explained that a patrol car would escort them home and that officers would remain outside their apartment for the next few days, just as a precaution. Is that really necessary? Tiana asked. Lawrence is gone. It's standard procedure in cases like this, the social worker assured her. Just until we're certain everything is resolved. In the hospital parking lot, Victor walked them to the waiting police car. I've arranged for some time off for you from your firm, he told Tiana. Paid leave, no questions asked. You didn't have to do that, she said. I wanted to. He looked down at Tyler, who was showing his new dinosaur toy to the police officer. Take care of each other and call me when you're ready. Tiana nodded, suddenly overwhelmed by the events of the past 24 hours. Thank you for everything. Victor stepped back as they got into the police car. Through the window, Tiana saw him standing there, watching them leave, Elijah at his side. Father and son, two silhouettes against the rising sun, both looking somehow diminished and stronger at the same time. Mom? Tyler's voice broke into her thoughts. Is Victor your boyfriend? The question, so innocent yet so complicated, caught her off guard. We're friends, honey. Good friends. I like him, Tyler said simply, turning his attention back to his dinosaur. Tiana stared out the window as the city slid past, its morning routine already in full swing, oblivious to the drama that had unfolded on dark waters just hours before. People going to work, children heading to school, life continuing its normal rhythm. For her and Tyler, though, nothing would be quite the same again. The world had shifted, revealing both its dangers and its unexpected allies. As the police car turned onto their street, Tiana found herself wondering not about the past night's horrors, but about possibilities, about healing, about forgiveness, about what it might mean to let someone new into the careful life she had built. Tyler leaned against her, already half asleep again. The dinosaur clutched to his chest. Tiana put her arm around him, holding him close, grateful for his solid warmth, his safety. Whatever came next, they would face it together. That much, at least, remained unchanged. 2 weeks passed in a blur of police statements, gentle therapy sessions for Tyler, and sleepless nights for Tiana. The story made the financial news. Billionaire shipping magnate's business partner missing. At sea, foul play suspected. But Victor's influence kept their names out of the headlines. For that, Tiana was grateful. The morning sun filtered through the blinds as Tiana poured coffee into her favorite mug. Tyler sat at the kitchen table, happily munching cereal and reading a comic book. In the corner of the living room, a police officer scrolled through his phone, his presence now almost a normal part of their routine. "Officer Chen, would you like more coffee?" Tiana called. The young officer looked up with a smile. "No, thank you, ma'am. I'm good." Her phone buzzed with an incoming text. "Victor." "They found Lawrence's body," it read. "Washed up on a beach 20 miles south. Can I come over?" Tiana felt a strange mix of emotions: relief, sadness, closure. She texted back a simple yes, and hour later Victor arrived, looking more casual than she'd ever seen him, in jeans and a simple button-down shirt. Tyler greeted him with unexpected enthusiasm, eager to show off a new space puzzle he'd been working on. "It's 100 pieces, Tyler explained proudly. "Mom helped with the edges, but I did the middle all by myself." "That's impressive," Victor said, examining the half-completed puzzle with genuine interest. "I was never good at these. My mind always jumps ahead to the finished picture instead of focusing on one piece at a time." "That's your problem," Tyler said with the brutal honesty of childhood. "You gotta look at the shapes, not just the colors." Victor laughed, a sound Tiana realized she hadn't heard nearly enough. "Wise words, buddy. I'll remember that." "Officer." Chen discreetly stepped onto the balcony to give them privacy, though Tiana noticed he kept a watchful eye through the glass door. "Tyler, why don't you work on your puzzle while Victor and I talk in the kitchen?" Tiana suggested. Once they were alone, Victor's expression grew serious. "They're doing an autopsy, but preliminary findings suggest he drowned. No foul play beyond what we already know." Tiana nodded, wrapping her hands around her coffee mug. "Does this change anything with the investigation?" "It closes some questions, opens others." Victor leaned against the counter. They found evidence in Lawrence's apartment. Detailed plans for taking over the company, fake documents, surveillance logs. He'd been planning this for months, maybe longer. And Elijah? How is he handling all this? A small smile touched Victor's lips. "Better than expected. He's been cooperating fully with the authorities. And we've been talking, really talking, for the first time in years." "That's good," Tiana said softly. "He needs you." "Yes," Victor agreed. "I see that now." He paused, studying her face. "And what about you, Tiana? What do you need?" The question hung in the air between them, loaded with possibilities and complications. Before she could answer, Tyler called from the living room. "Mom." "Victor, I found all the edge pieces. We'll be right there," Tiana called back. To Victor, she said quietly, "I don't know yet. Everything still feels unsteady." Victor nodded in understanding. "Take all the time you need, I'm not going anywhere." They rejoined Tyler, sitting cross-legged on the floor as he excitedly showed them his progress. For a while, they simply worked on the puzzle together, the simple activity a balm after weeks of chaos and fear. Later, when Tyler went to his room to get a book he wanted to show Victor, Tiana's phone rang. It was Detective Rivera, the lead investigator on their case. "Mrs. Taylor," the detective said when she answered, "I wanted to update you personally. With the recovery of Mr. Richardson's body and the evidence we've gathered, we're preparing to close the active investigation. The protective detail outside your apartment will be withdrawn tomorrow morning." "So soon?" Tiana felt a sudden anxiety at the thought of losing that security blanket. "We have no reason to believe there's any ongoing threat to you or your son," Rivera assured her. "Mr. Richardson appears to have acted alone, with minor unwitting assistance from Elijah Blackwell. Both the FBI and our department are satisfied that this CA says reaching its conclusion." After she hung up, Tiana relayed the news to Victor. "I can arrange private security if you'd feel safer," he offered immediately. "No," she said after a moment's consideration. "We need to start getting back to normal, whatever that looks like now." Victor nodded, though concern lingered in his eyes. "I understand. But the offer stands, anytime." Officer Chen left that evening for the last time, shaking their hands and giving Tyler a junior police badge sticker. Tiana watched from the window as he drove away, taking with him the last official acknowledgement of their ordeal. The next morning brought a new challenge: Tyler's return to school. He had been seeing a child psychologist who specialized in trauma, and both the therapist and school counselor felt he was ready. Still, Tiana's stomach was in knots as she walked him to his classroom. "I'll pick you up right here at 3:15, she promised, kneeling to straighten his collar. "If you feel scared or need to come home, just tell your teacher to call me, okay?" Tyler nodded, but seemed more excited than afraid. "Will Victor come with you to pick me up?" The question caught her off guard. "No, honey, not today. He's busy, with work." "Oh." Tyler looked disappointed. "He's nice, and he makes you smile." Before Tiana could respond to that simple but profound observation, Tyler's teacher called the class to order, and he gave his mother a quick hug before running to join his friends. Tiana walked back to her car in a daze, Tyler's words echoing in her mind. Had she been smiling more around Victor? She hadn't noticed, but children saw things adults often missed. At home, she tried to focus on work. Her law firm had been understanding about her absence, but files were piling up. Yet her concentration kept slipping, her thoughts returning to Victor, to Elijah, to the strange, traumatic experience that had bound them all together. Around noon, her doorbell rang. When she opened it, Elijah stood there, looking nervous. "I hope it's okay that I came by," he said. "Dad doesn't know I'm here." Tiana stepped back to let him in. "Of course, is everything all right?" Elijah paced the living room, reminding her of Victor in his restless energy. "I wanted to talk to you, without Dad around, about what happened." "Elijah, we've been through this. You were manipulated by Lawrence." "No," he interrupted. "I mean, yes, I was, but that's not an excuse. I made choices. Bad ones." He stopped pacing to look directly at her. "I need you to know that I'm sorry, truly sorry, for putting your son in danger. And I need to know if you can ever forgive me." The raw vulnerability in his voice touched her. She gestured for him to sit down. "Elijah, I was angry at first. Terrified and angry, but I've had time to think and I understand something now." She chose her words carefully. "You were looking for your father's attention, weren't you? In all the wrong ways, but that's what you wanted." Elijah looked down at his hands. "Maybe. I don't know. It's been so long since we really talked, since we were a real family. After Mom died, he just checked out, buried himself in work. I was sent to boarding school, then college, then given a trust fund and an apartment. Never given his time. And then I came along," Tiana said quietly. "And suddenly he was making time for someone else. For you. For your kid." Elijah's voice held no accusation, just a sad recognition. "It felt like he was replacing us, me and Mom, with a new family." Tiana moved to sit beside him on the couch. "No one could replace you or your mother in Victor's heart. I think he just didn't know how to show you that he cared. People sometimes bury their pain in work and success. Like Dad did, Elijah nodded. Like I was doing with partying, with wasting my life. He looked up at her, his eyes so like Victor's. I'm trying to change that now. I've started working at the company, learning the business from the ground up, no special treatment. That's wonderful, Tiana said, genuinely pleased. Your father must be proud. I think he is, Elijah admitted. We're talking more, about real things, not just superficial stuff. He hesitated. He talks about you, you know, all the time, you and Tyler. Tiana felt a flush rise to her cheeks. We've been through a lot together. It's more than that, Elijah said. He lights up when he mentions you. I haven't seen him like this since before Mom got sick. They talked for another hour, the conversation flowing more easily than Tiana would have expected. When Elijah finally left, promising to join them for dinner sometime soon, Tiana felt a weight lifting that she hadn't realized she'd been carrying. At 3:15, she waited outside Tyler's classroom, her heart racing until she saw him emerge with his classmates chatting animatedly with a friend. His face brightened further when he spotted her. Mom, school was awesome. We did a science experiment with magnets and I got to be the helper. Relief washed over her as they walked to the car. That sounds great, sweetie. Did you feel okay being back? Tyler nodded. Yeah. I was a little scared at first, but then I remembered what my therapist said about brave thoughts. And also, Billy has a loose tooth that might fall out tomorrow, so I have to be there to see it. Tiana laughed, marveling at children's resilience. As they drove home, Tyler chattered about his day, the nightmare of 2 weeks ago seemingly distant in his mind. At home, Tyler settled in with a snack and his homework, while Tiana checked her email. Among the work messages was one from Victor, with the subject line, a proposal. Her heart skipped as she opened it, but it wasn't the type of proposal she had momentarily imagined. Instead, Victor had attached plans for a charity foundation focused on helping children who had experienced trauma. Something good should come from what we went through, he wrote. I'd like your input, your legal expertise, and if you're willing, your partnership in this endeavor. No pressure, no strings attached, just an opportunity to help others. Tiana read the attached documents, impressed by the thoroughness of the plan. It wasn't just a wealthy man's vanity project. It was a thoughtful initiative that could make a real difference. Without overthinking it, she picked up her phone and called him. Hi, she said when he answered. I got your email. About the foundation. And? Victor's voice held a note of hopeful anticipation. I think it's a wonderful idea. I'd be honored to help. Good, he said, and she could hear the smile in his voice. I was hoping you'd say that. Maybe we could discuss it over dinner. All of us, you, me, Tyler, Elijah. Tiana glanced at her son, contentedly working on math problems at the kitchen table. I'd like that. We both would. Tomorrow night? I know a place with great pizza and terrible arcade games that I think Tyler would love. Tiana laughed. Sounds perfect. After they hung up, she sat for a moment, letting herself feel the possibilities stretching before them. There were still hurdles to overcome, still healing to be done, but for the first time in 2 weeks, the future looked bright, rather than frightening. Tyler, she called. How do you feel about pizza and arcade games tomorrow night? With Victor and his son Elijah? Tyler looked up with a grin. Awesome. Can I challenge Victor to air hockey? I bet I can beat him. I bet you can too. Tiana agreed, smiling. That night, after Tyler was asleep, Tiana stood on their small balcony, looking out at the city lights. The same view she'd had for years, yet somehow different now. Everything was different now. Scarier in some ways, but also richer, fuller, with possibilities she hadn't allowed herself to consider before. Her phone pinged with a text from Victor. Just checking in. You okay? She typed back. Better than, okay, looking forward to tomorrow. His response came quickly. Me too. More than you know. Tiana smiled, tucking the phone away. The night air felt clean and fresh, washing away the last lingering shadows of fear. Whatever came next Whether with Victor, with her career, with their lives, she felt ready to face it. She thought of Lawrence, now gone, consumed by bitterness and resentment. Of Elijah finding his way back to his father through the most painful of journeys. Of Victor, allowing himself to open up to love again after years of isolation. And most of all, she thought of Tyler, her brave, resilient boy, who had endured a nightmare and emerged still able to smile, to play, to look forward to pizza and games with friends. From inside, she heard Tyler call out, a small sound from his bedroom, not distressed, just seeking reassurance in the night. Tiana went to him immediately, sitting on the edge of his bed, stroking his hair. "Bad dream?" she asked softly. He shook his head, already drifting back to sleep. "No, just wanted to make sure you were still here." "I'm here," she promised. "I'll always be here." Tyler nodded, satisfied, his eyes closing again. "And Victor too?" Tiana hesitated only briefly before answering. "Yes, sweetie. Victor too." As Tyler slipped back into peaceful sleep, Tiana remained by his side, watching over him in the gentle glow of his nightlight. Outside, the city continued its nighttime rhythm, cars passing, people living their lives, the world turning steadily onward. Inside this small apartment, something new was taking root. A sense of family that extended beyond just the two of them, a cautious but genuine hope for the future, and the understanding that sometimes, from the darkest moments, the brightest beginnings could emerge. Tomorrow would bring pizza and games and laughter. The day after might bring challenges or joy or both. But tonight, in this moment of quiet peace, Tiana finally allowed herself to believe that the worst was behind them, and that whatever lay ahead, they would face it together, stronger, wiser, and unafraid.